for our buddy Gavin Mounsey. You guys, do you know? It's the fourth Wednesday of the month, the last Wednesday of the month. That means it is time for the latest installment of the Mounsey Minute. I really dig this. A huge, giant thanks to CastBot for getting this rolling. It is pretty much everything I sort of dreamed and hoped that this could become. Our buddy Gavin Mounsey, you should know, of course, is the author of Recipes for Reciprocity. He has been doing a monthly segment here in your Food World Order Wednesdays from his website. Again, it'll all be linked up, gavinmounsey.substack.com. It's your Mounsey Minute. 24 spring foods to forage for in 2024. Now, this post, pretty interesting stuff. Provides an updated list of wild and or widely available plants and fungi, which can give you free access to free nutrient-dense food each spring as the first signs of spring arrive, and maybe the second and third signs, and winter fades into the rearview mirror. Again, we did only have snow here a couple of weeks ago. Those of us who love to garden will likely be busy planting many of the crops that will sustain us for the rest of the year. That's right, foraging is a right-wing extremism. This time of year, after winter stores almost completely depleted and before this year's crops are ready, traditionally known as the hungry gap. Foraging for wild, edible plants, however, can help you fill that gap. I think there's definitely been some folks talking about morels in the chat. I think RBL's been getting all kinds of morels. Wild greens and some fungi can be an important source of nutrients at this time of year. In that article, they took a look at 24 common edible wild plants and a couple of shrooms that you can look for around this time of year. The other one from this month gets really interesting. Day 1 of 12 days of eating weeds, and it begins with dandelion, and there are 11 more. How many? So here's the good question, not only for CastBot and I, but for all of y'all. How many items on this list of the 24 and the 12 are things that you can find in your own neck of the woods? And again, huge thanks to CastBot. I was eating dandelion heads from our yard on some salmon the other day. It is the Mounsey Minute, Episode 4, Eating Weeds.
This is Gavin Mounsey for Media Monarchy. I'm author of Recipes for Reciprocity, the regenerative way from seed to table. And this is the Mounsey Minute. I want to build on last month's emergency preparedness and universal skill sets. So this month I'm going to be sharing 24 wild foods you can forage for in 2024. Before I share the list, I just wanted to be real and give an honest assessment of the current state of affairs. We live in a time when our economies are being manipulated. There's scamdemic bailouts. There's inflation out of control. The grocery store bills are skyrocketing. And yet many people aren't taking advantage of all the wild abundance around us. In a time when our food at the grocery store is full of poison and often covered in pesticides, learning how to identify plants in the forest or even in our own yards can give us a huge advantage. Learning to identify plants that have been characterized as weeds by corporate agriculture and other propaganda systems helps us not only to attain nutrition for our bodies in emergencies or everyday life, but also shows us indicators for the soil conditions in our garden. Whether it's through laziness or people having a sort of food snobbery conditioning where they have bought into the propaganda of big ag and they think that the only good food to eat is at the grocery store, a lot of people aren't taking advantage of all the beautiful food around us growing in the forests and the fields in our own yards. I created a Substack article that's got in-depth info on each one of the items that's going to be listed. So if you go there, you can see ideas for recipes, nutritional and medicinal benefits. And without further ado, here's the 24 foods. Number 1, hostas. Hostas may be seen as an ornamental plant here in North America, but in Japan, it's actually a traditional seasonal food that's eaten a lot like asparagus. I love to harvest them before the leaves have opened up, when the shoots are just coming out of the ground, to thin out the ones in our yard. I use them in fermentation to make tasty pickles, and sometimes I'll make kimchi out of them. Number 2, fiddlehead ferns or ostrich ferns. 3, wild violets. 4, dandelions. I love to use the little flower buds as they just start to emerge. Instead of capers in fermentation, I'll use the greens in soups and in smoothies, and when the flowers become ripe, you can use them to make dandelion wine. 5, stinging nettle. Now this is one of my favorites. You can use it instead of spinach. It's nutritionally superior to spinach. You could use it in dishes like soups. You can mix it in with your pasta. I like to make mushroom and nettle ravioli, and sometimes I'll dry them and use it later for tea. It's packed full of minerals that are great for your bones, and it'll actually help with allergies. 6, chickweed. You'll find this stuff growing around your yard if you're in the temperate zone, and it's great if added to a salad. 7. Clover. Clover can be made into a really nice tea and is especially beneficial to women where it helps balance hormone levels. 8. Cattail shoots and pollen. Cattails are known as the ultimate survival plant. Every part of the plant is edible in some way. 9. Ramps, or wild leeks.
Aw, shit.
These are one of my favorites. They're kind of endangered around our area, so I don't take the bulbs, but rather I take just the leaves so the plants can regenerate. I collect the seeds and I spread them around the forest so more patches can grow. They have a really lovely garlicky flavor. You can add them to soups or ferments, and they're just an all-around great addition to the kitchen. 10. Wild asparagus. 11. Dead nettle. 12. Garlic mustard. 13. Willow. 14. Yarrow. Yarrow is one of my new favorites. I discovered how it has mosquito-repelling properties when I was hiking up in the high alpine last year. And basically, you can make it into a tea. It's highly nutritious. It has a nice, rich flavor. And if you ever get a nasty wound, you can mush it up and rub it in the wound, and it'll stop the bleeding. 15. Plantain. 16. Spruce tips or pine tips. These are another new one of my favorites. I love snacking on them just as they emerge. Every species of pine has edible tips, so when you see those tips pushing out, they're vitamin C rich, they're tangy and citrusy. You can eat them fresh, or you can fry them up. There's a lot of different potentials for those nutritious foods. 17. Ground elder. Not to be confused with elderberry. There's more information on my Substack article on how to identify it. 18. Fat hen or lamb's quarter. 19. Henbit. 20. Burdock. 21.
Ooh.
Birch leaf tea or birch syrup. Birch leaf tea is very nourishing and has quite a few medicinal properties, and birch syrup, similar to maple syrup, has a rich, sweet flavor and can carry the nutrition in the summer months. 22. Oyster mushrooms. 23. King Bolete or porcini mushrooms. And last but not least, 24. Morel mushrooms. I hope this inspires some of you to get out there in your local neighborhood and forest and do some of your own foraging. Until next time, happy foraging, everyone.
There you go. The Mounsey Minute for the month of April 2024. 24 spring foods to forage for in 2024, and the related post that goes right along with this, because even Dandelion on that list of 24 is the link to his other article about eating weeds. Day 1 of 12 days of eating weeds. Dandelion was day 1. We got burdock up in here. You're rarer than a can of dandelion and burdock. See, Arctic monkeys, they were trying to save me. I hear you, cow. So that is episode 4 of the Mounsey Minute, and as we have been doing for the last, I believe, couple of months, I will include the link to the MP3 so you can download and save that segment out of this episode. Somebody just noted, Mounsey so good, got my dad the book for Christmas. And Jep can claim he's not saving anybody anymore, but segments like this prove otherwise. I love you and thank you. Again, huge thanks to CastBot and huge thanks to Gavin Mounsey. See, watch what happens when we get another one of these monthly segments from somebody that's going to do astrology for us. Hey, but more importantly than that is your cover art. Huge thanks to Hybrid for creating cover art for bands that, for now, only exist here in the Media Monarchy Kingdom. It is the second album, Gavin Mounsey's The Honorable Harvest. Your previous Mounsey Minute from March, the power's off, the stores are empty. What will you do? What will you do? And CastBot posted a picture. She made dandelion capers inspired by one of Gavin's posts, and it was indeed delicious. Also, remember, don't try and pick any of the stuff in your local parks because it's all sprayed with poison Roundup. You listen to your Morning Monarchy. It is a Food World Order Wednesday. We have